this road. Well, it's not that easy, right? You got to get off and bump. It's a little bumpy, right? It's going to be like that, right? So when you do it, so okay. The skills you'll need. I just want to put this up there, and some of you who are more experienced, like Leslie out there, or Yvonne for that matter, you kind of understand this is the role. This is what you should be doing for lead conversion. Literally, if you have no leads or you're struggling to get leads, you should be doing this. This is your job description. You should be practicing the role playing. There's basic techniques, we call it scripts and conversations, and then there's advanced techniques, DISC and personality assessments, and mirror matching. That's what I'm talking about today. So just know there's other parts to this whole process, and each of these steps has different things you'll need to master to be good at those. I will be teaching these in the future. I'll just be going down this list, but just know practice and role play. If you're not practicing role playing, you're practicing on your leads, which is why you're struggling. So practicing and role playing, we'll talk about that. You should have focused lead generation activity. You should be doing this. That I found lead generation activity is more a mindset issue than it is a skill issue. So you need to have focused lead generation activity daily. And then you need to build rapport through questions and conversations. And that's not this class. We can talk about that in the future, but you need to be able to build rapport quickly when you get someone on the phone. And then you need to add value with specific need or roadblock. And this is where a lot of people struggle. I found agents struggle is they ask questions, and when you ask the right questions, the client or the lead or the open house attendee or whoever you're talking to, if you ask the right questions and get into the conversation, they're going to display a gap or a roadblock, something that's stopping them from moving forward, either choosing a real estate agent or moving forward to buy a house or moving forward to sell a house. There's something that's stopping them, and you want to add value there. If you add value there and remove roadblocks, you're good. I've had people says, "Oh, we're gonna," in an open house, and I said, "Oh, we're gonna buy a year from now." Like, well, why is it a year? And then they say, "Well, it just fits our family. We're talking about having kids, yada yada yada." And then I give them reasons. Well, in a year it's unpredictable. Your rate could go up, prices are going up, right? Yada yada yada. That means you're going to spend exponentially more to buy in a year, and you may not even be able to afford the house in the current neighborhood you're living in and looking at right now, right? And so they're like, "Whoa, well, we need to save for a down payment." Well, there's nothing. So there's a lot of things you can interject with value that removes roadblocks to them thinking it's a year. And I've had those people think it's a year later, and then they're buying now, right? Because you just removed roadblocks, and no other agent they talk to at a different open house could move them forward. You moved them forward because you asked the right questions, and then you added value, removed a roadblock, or made them go. And then when you do that, you ask for an appointment. As soon as you add value, even if they have other roadblocks, if they have other roadblocks than the one you just solved for them, they will come on the appointment. But at least I got that roadblock. And then if you ask for an appointment, they say no or anything but yes. If they say anything but yes, then you haven't got all their roadblocks done. Does that make sense? People can have multiple roadblocks. But I just wanted to put this out there. We're only going to focus on this today, but I want to put out there on this. If you're not mastering, if you realize each of these steps requires a mastery of some skill, and if you don't master all these steps, then you are going to struggle with it. But and most of you have been around a little bit, lead generation and conversion is pretty much the key to long-term success in real estate. Pretty much. So if you can master this, you can suck at the contract, and I guarantee you'll be great. You'll do great. You'll do great in real estate. So, all right. So let's go forward. I just want to put some quotes out there. Everyone communicates, few connect. John Maxwell, and actually he just put out a book which is really good. I read it. It's 16 Laws of Communication. And it's pretty good. Part of what I'm talking about goes today, but you need to be a great communicator. And if you're not a great communicator, you're going to struggle in this business. And people work with people they like, they trust, and they believe can help them get to their goal. So we know that humans, us Americans, tend to work with people that we like. We're like, I like this person, and I trust them. They're ethical. I can trust them. I can give them my personal information, and they're not going to go blab it everywhere. Use it, and they have the tools to get me to where I want to go. Right? And as a real estate agent, that should be your focus. It's like, I want someone to like me. I want them to feel like they can trust me, and I want to engender trust with them. And I want to be able to display enough knowledge, enough experience that they feel comfortable that I have the tools to get into the cross finish. Make sense? And this part is get across the finish line. This is why buyers are a little easier, right? Buyers are easier because getting them across the finish line is a little easier on the buy side, right? Getting across the finish line on listing, well, now they're paying you money and things like that. So the bar comes higher, and you can see that part is usually the difference maker between people who do a lot of listing and buyers. Is they don't have a good skill on how to help them get across the finish line on both on listings and buyers, right? So this is my quote. This is my training about myself. We all speak English, but we all speak different. We all think in different dialects, and that's what I want you to understand. The basis for what we're talking about today is how many of you have significant others or spouses? How many of you talk or have an argument with each other and you feel like they're not listening to you? Right? They don't understand. Like, they don't understand. And the real reason is they think about the world in a different way than you do. They think about what they just do. And what's logical to them, how they view the world should happen, is different. And they're viewing it through that lens, and you're viewing it through your lens, and you're miscommunicating. So the good part about this, and this is the thing, is if you master these skills, it'll help in your relationships. Because if you can understand how to talk to your significant other and where they're coming from, you're going to have a lot more synergy. A lot of people like, I just wish I had a spouse that was on board and we just go in the same direction and 100%, and man, my life would be awesome. We just go in 100% in the same direction. And I say, if you want someone to go 100%, it can happen with anybody. You just have to talk to them and connect and really get on the same page, right? So, okay. So I'll ask this question: how do millionaire real estate agents, John Lanting, how do millionaire real estate agents get more deals when they have the same 24 hours a day that you? No.
Time management.
What?
Time management.
Time management, some of those, right? Like they're more focused when they do their work, right? They're consistently focused when they do their work. What else?
Better skill set.
Better skill set, yeah, because John Lanting could do an open house, and when's the last time you did an open house? 30 years ago. But I can tell you, John, if John Lanting did an open house, even now, 13 years later, he's probably getting 1 to 2 appointments at that open house, pretty much guaranteed. I see agents do 4 open houses and they're struggling with a few leads. And when I was doing open houses, if I didn't come through an appointment and I didn't have another potential appointment, I felt that was a failed open house. Literally, I sucked. And that's because, and so what the real difference is the millionaire real estate agents talk to the same 100 people that you're talking to, they just convert at a higher level. What happens is you're showing up like every other agent out there, and they're showing up like someone they need to talk to and listen to. And they're building trust, and they're telling them how they can do it, and they're getting past the roadblocks. Make sense? All right. Whew. Okay. I want to say this disclaimer. You must master scripts and conversations before you can really implement these advanced techniques, because if you're more concerned about what you're going to say next or sounding stupid, as opposed to listening and observing the person, your brain cannot focus on both at the same time. Put this thing up. So some of you want to skip the scripts. Like, scripts sound so scripty. Sexy sounds salesy. But the problem is if you're standing there at an open house talking to someone, trying to convert them to be your client to an appointment, and all you're concerned about, what am I going to say next? Oh my gosh, what are they going to ask me? What are they asking me? Oh my gosh, I'm not going to sound stupid. If that's what you're concerned about, you can't implement these techniques. Because what you have to do during these conversations is I ask a question, they're talking to me and I'm listening to them, but I'm also observing their mannerisms. I'm observing what they're saying. And I'm thinking about how should I change my response? I know what the answer is. I know what the question they're going to do. I know what the roadblock is. I know how to address it, down payment assistance, whatever. I know how to address the problem automatically. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to say it to them as opposed to what am I going to say? Make sense? And if you struggle with what am I going to say, then you need to, this will be a good academic exercise for you. You should know this stuff, but I can tell you it's going to be very hard for you to implement it in real time, because if you're concerned about what you're going to say, then you're never going to be able to step back and really listen and observe someone while you're having a conversation. You almost want to get to a point where you're so scripted and mastered that you know what to say, that when they're talking to you, you're almost like a third person, right? You're just an angel sitting out there watching the conversation, because you can see, oh, look, they're doing that, and they're doing this, and they're doing that, and they're saying things this way, and that way, okay, let me adjust. And that's what was going through my brain as I'm having the conversation. Listen to them, but you can't do that if you're concerned about what they're going to say. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. You can't go advanced until you have basic, right? So you need to learn to ride the bike before you can go do a century ride, right? Make sense? All right. Here's communication. How communication is received. This is studied by academics, people smarter than me. But I want you to look at that. What's that say?
Word don't mean anything.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong. Well, but a lot of what, remember, the person's eyes are getting a lot of, and sound is small, getting a lot of data inputs. And your brain evaluates all of those data inputs together and then, so when we talk about engendering trust, communicating well, connecting with people, it's all this together. And I got to get you to understand that is how you show up, how you dress, how you stand. All those things matter. All those little things matter for conversion. And if you think, oh, I just show up, I do my open house. And the reason that John's doing it better is because he does a better open house. He's better on this stuff and this stuff, right? He understands these things, right? And so you got to understand that most of it, if you're coming and says, hey, and you're tired and you're like, hey, welcome to my open house. Welcome. Here's a flyer. Kind of like the house, right? Well, what did you say? You said, I don't really want your business. That's what you really said. That's what their eyes are saying. Says, I don't want this business. This person is lazy and tired. Right? That's what the leaders do. Right? So, right? Exactly. So, and you say, well, I said this and I said this and I said this. It's like, no, you didn't. Because, what's that? 95% of your, 93% of your body was not saying that, right? You got to line those up. Line those up. All right. Questions on that? Yes.
Body language.
Body language.
How you engage. How you receive them entering into your house. How would you welcome people that come into your home?
We're going to talk about that. Yes. We're going to talk about that.
I'm just going to make a comment. So 93% of what we do in our business is body language and tone. So when you are interacting with another agent through texting, email, we are missing a whole lot of communication. And that,
yeah, when you do text and email, this especially goes away all the way, right? You lose contact to tone, right? Tone is tone. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You're trying to enunciate tone in there, but that's why you see people even on the phone. You see our big agents even on the phone. They're calling. They're standing up. They have a stand-up desk and they're standing up. Why? Because they know they're so trained that all this matters. And even if they can't see them, they're doing the body language anyways because they know it affects everything they say and do. Right? It's all, you can't separate one from the other. It's all one package. And that's why they stand up and do calls, because they want the proper body language and tone to come out that matches their words, right? Even though they can't see it.
if that's the phone, it makes it so much easier to communicate in this
Yes.
business.
Oh my gosh. A lot of people just try to convert off text.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
What is DISC? Does everyone know what DISC is? First introduction to DISC. DISC is a personality assessment. It's a fairly simplistic personality assessment, but but it is powerful because there are more complicated ones that give accurate personality assessments better, but we don't need accurate personality assessments. What we need is a simple tool that we can apply to our daily lives that can be used to help us give guidelines and rails that are generally going to be successful in this business, right? So DISC has 4 categories. I steal Tony Robbins' slides when I talk about this because he does a really good job on them. So she's gonna switch it out. So, but DISC has 4 categories: dominant, influencer, steady, and conscientious. And what DISC says is that all your how should I say this? This is our dialects. These are our dialects. These are our dialects.
Can
Which
you
means-
do that?
Yeah.
Are you able to move it?
What?
The,
Oh! Okay. Those different categories are the dialects of English. It's how people generally think. So what the powerful tool of DISC is it says people generally, we all think differently, but they generally think in 4 different ways. And if you add up the whole world, generally there's 4 categories of people. Generally. And so, so this is, we all know the golden rule, right? Treat others as you would want to be treated. So, and the platinum rule, which is where you need to get to, is treat others how they want to be treated. It's not how you want to be treated. Treat others how they want to be treated, and then you get to the promised land of more leading for and better. Okay. So we're gonna talk about this a little bit. It's a circle generally speaking, but it's gonna carved into 4 parts. So there's 4 different parts we're talking about here. There's active, outgoing people, and then there's passive and reserved. And the problem with DISC is the real fallacy. What makes DISC difficult to apply for you personally is people tend to what they really are. They tend to envision what they think they are versus or what they want to be versus what they actually are. And when you answer questions, you actually answer questions of what you should think you should be versus what you actually are. And it's better if you know what you actually are because then you can understand how to talk. Right. So okay. Active, outgoing, go-getter, fast-paced, optimistic, energetic, very involved, positive, enthusiastic. John Lankin fits in. Yeah, hey, right? Get it? Like, you're gonna do it. Right? You see that? If you see John Lankin do that team meeting, you're like, I would never do that. In 100 years, you're on this side. Make sense?
But you want to.
You may want to, but you just can't handle the pressure of it. It's just way out of your personality zone. I can't even get to that volume in my voice, right? You know, that's what you're saying to yourself. You're over here, right? So, makes sense. So, all right. You got it? All right. There's this way as well. Some people are task oriented. How many of you like, man, if John just gave me a checklist of all the real estate things I need to do to be successful, I just check each box and man, I'd be a millionaire real estate agent, right? If that's how you think, you're on the task side. Then there's people oriented side. These are like, the world doesn't spin on tasks. The world spins on relationships. That's how things work. We're just going to network our way because I'm going to find someone and they're going to be awesome and they're going to show me and we're going to have a relationship and it's going to be awesome and we're going to both get the job done because I know a lot of people and we're going to all work together and it's going to be awesome. Make sense? Now, I just want to point out a few things. And we'll go forward here. And that's how DISC comes about. Makes sense? So if you're outgoing and tend to be task oriented, you tend to be D. You're just like, I'm gonna go, I'll talk to people, whatever I need to do. But if you're reserved and task oriented, you're a C. If you're outgoing, but you like people, you're an I, right? if you're reserved, more people, you're an S. Make sense? And you can see some of those categories there. Those categories: dominant, direct, demanding, decisive, determined, doer. Right? I'm sure you know people that just like, man, this person gets up, you admire them because they just get up in the morning and they just do. They're constantly in action. They don't care, they just go. And if they mess up, they just keep going. You know those people? They're just go, 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 go. They're D's. C's are cautious, confident, conscientious, contemplative, careful. So who are C's? Vince is a C. The reason Vince is a great tech trainer because he likes the details. He loves the organization that is software, because software has to be logical, right? It pushes this button, it does this, do this, does that, does this, does that. It's very logical, it's very predictable, right? I can check boxes and it works. That's why he's a C type. And you can see you orientate yourself and your business and your job to those sort of things. I's, inspiring, influencing, passionate, impressionable, interactive, interested in people, impressive. These are people that are outgoing. They tend to have, the life of the party. When they see a mixer room, they're like, how can I make friends with everyone in this room? Melinda's good. Melinda's an I. Yes, Melinda's good. Melinda is an I, right? I'm interested in people. I like the people. I want to make everyone feel great. They tend to host lots of parties. They tend to host lots of parties, right? Because they want that interaction. They want it, right? Then you have S's: supportive, steady, stable, sweet, status quo, shy. They tend to be, these people are reserved. Remember, S's, they're people oriented, so they tend to be friendly, but they're going to be your more motherly types. They're going to be people that are like, let's all work together to get a job done, right? They're going to be very team oriented, right? They're going to be, I don't want to be the lead, but I don't mind being second, and I want to help make sure everyone has a great deal. We all go in the same direction. And they're going to be the first one to say, this person is not doing what the team wants. They're going off the ranch. John, you need to get them back in line, right? They're going to be the first one to point that out because they like that collegialism, right? They like that, right? So they want steady, they want safe, they want secure. So you tend to see a lot of people in state jobs have BS personality. Why? Because state jobs don't necessarily have great pay, but great benefits, super steady, union, so you're protected. I just work here and I get my pension, right? Those tend to be S's because they like that security. It makes sense? So, questions on that? So, my question to you is, and keep this to yourself, please. What do you truly think you are? And let me qualify this as well. In KW world, we tend to glorify D's. I'm just going to say that. We tend to glorify D's because there are people, they tend, when you start a real estate career with a D, they just go. If you say 100 contacts a day, open house every weekend, lead follow up like this, like, okay, and they just go. And they do it, and they tend to have success faster than most people because they just do it, but that's how they're oriented to do it, right? And so we tend to celebrate these because you see them fast rising through the business, right? Generally. Okay. I's, so realtors tend to be primarily D's and I's. Actually, majority of realtors are D's and I's. I's because they like people, so they want to network the hell out of everything. They're going to join every club. They're going to join the BMW club. They're going to join everything. Just to they just want to meet people, and if I just meet enough people, I'm going to have enough business. That's literally their mantra, right? And so these people tend to be real estate agents. Then there's C's and S's. Not to say this, I have seen millionaire real estate agents that are C's and S's. I have seen them. I have talked with them. And so I'm just going to say this: it doesn't matter what personality you are, you can get to the promised land. It's just you're going to have to get there a different way. So, if you're C, it's a good C. Because Helen, she's very C. I want this. So, but most people sit here actually. Majority of people. And so, but don't worry, you can be steady supportive and work with those people. But I want you to think internally based on these, what letter do you think you are? Just
What do you need to mix them up?
so
Because
we do.
don't be direct and we speak.
You're like, I'm a DS.
You can have, there are, sometimes you can be both if you're, some people are more advanced, not more advanced, but just their personality is more hybridish. So you can have more than one, but you usually have one that's dominant and one that's secondary. So usually like, Yvonne, I'm sure you probably have DI probably, right? You go fast. You couldn't do your job unless you're methodical and you just go, action. But you need to have this. But I guarantee if we really stressed you out, like put you under pressure and say, you got to cover these many more offices, you're either going to go one way or the other. You're going to be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn off a little skill and I'm just going to make sure I hit everybody, or I'm going to just love everyone more, right? You're going to go one way or the other. So generally you're going to have one dominant letter that really sums you up,
But
right?
I'm guilty.
You're definitely You're definitely
Are you mothering now?
Everyone got a letter in their head?
Yeah.
Okay.
John, do you know
What?
the D's are,
So,
oh, sorry.
actually, they're about 10% of the population. So D is about 10%. What do they like? They like winning, planning, new ideas, being the boss, results, fast moving challenge. They dislike indecision, lazy people, details, taking orders, moving slow. Does that make sense? So this is when I say you start changing your behavior. If you come up to a D right at the beginning of the open house and you show up like you're lazy, you lost them. They're done. You're never going to convert that lead. I don't care if they walk the house and like the house, you're not going to use it. They'll go find some other agent and right off, right? Literally. That makes sense? So you got to understand you can't be the dislikes, you got to be the likes of these people. And you'll know them. Why? How does a D show up at an open house? What's that? Sign in? I don't want to sign in. That's too stupid, right? They're going to give you the most objections about signing in. Why? Because it's a waste of their time. The waste of their time. And this person, if I sign in, they might call me and waste more of my time, right? That makes sense? So they're going to give you biggest objections about signing in. They're going to want bars to the door. They're going to use force just to get past you, right? They're just going to force their way into the house. They'll just come in and they don't spend time on like, look at that. They're just, oh, you know, the house doesn't check my boxes, I'm out. All right. So, talk to them this way. Quickly get to the point. So if I'm talking to a D, I make it real quick. I like the house. This house doesn't mean to me. What do you need to make sure this house is right? I need a bedroom and bathroom downstairs. Great. I have 3 homes in this neighborhood on this list that have bedroom and bathroom downstairs. Can I show those to you? Literally. Straight like that. I don't even say, hey, I'm John. I don't even do any of that. Trying to make rapport. I just go straight to the point. Convert that lead. Right? Because they want quickly to the point. Be specific. They want to win. Everything you teach them is about winning. Right? When they say I want a better bathroom downstairs, I got 3 homes in this same neighborhood that have a better bathroom downstairs right now, and I can show you those. That's winning. Does that make sense? You want to tell them how you're going to win. So, task method, my way, challenging, choices, control, competitive. They're going to be very competitive. The biggest fear is getting taken advantage of. So the worst thing you can do is like waste their time, take advantage of them, right? Like if you're going slow, they're like, oh man, feels like I feel like I'm getting stuck, right? I just have to get out of this place, right? That's what they're going to feel like. So cool. Now they're only about 10% of the population. So I just want to note for you, in our world right now, if you are not savvy in your personality discussions and your matching, what tends to happen is you only tend to gravitate and attract people that are like you. You tend to only attract people who are like you. Because this person gets me. They think like me. And when you get that connection, they think like me, trust starts developing, rapport starts developing, right? And so if you're a D personality, the biggest thing that I've noticed with agents that are D personality, they have to learn is they have to slow down for other people because they go faster than everyone.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it may drive them crazy, but you have to get used to it. I had to learn that. Like when I first did my first C client that I closed, it was painful, but I closed. I said, yes. So, because I slowed down enough, right, to do that. So, everyone cool? So if you're a D personality and you don't get this, you're going to work with 10% of the population. That means automatically, if 20 people came to your open house, only 2 of them are going to be Ds. And you'd be able to be on spot, Johnny on the spot, because those T2 are the only chance they're going to be converted to an appointment. Everyone else you're losing. Clear? All right. I personality, they're about 25 to 30% of the population. So they like to be liked. They like to be liked. They like to be liked. Expressing ideas, being part of groups, social activities, recognition. Right? Just like being ignored,
Don't do that.
being isolated, ridiculed. Give them detailed, repetitive work, right? Give them long-term projects, right? That you have to grind at, right? These are dislikes. So if you're lazy at your open house and you don't greet people with gusto and show them with energy and life, I don't care. They walk in, you don't do that. You just sign in. Here's your flyer. You lost them because they think you're kind of isolating yourself. You're kind of ignoring them. You don't care about them. They really want to be cared about.
They're the ones that like the trees.
Yeah, they want kind of like, so when I talk, so think about that, talk to them. This will be fun. You want to be upbeat, positive, enthusiastic. You got to come with energy. So I'm talking to I at open house. What am I going to say?
It should be
Welcome, have to go. You'll have to- Welcome and a good voice and.
Yeah. So you're going to come in, welcome to my open house. You want to be like, welcome to my open house. And they're going to respond appropriately, right? They're going to say, welcome to my open house. And be like, oh, like I'm John. They're going to want to hear your name. They're going to want to get to know you, right? And the more you want to get to know, what's your name? You're going to ask them personal stuff. What's your name? Oh, right. Is it just you or is your family coming, right? They want to know, like, they want those personal connections. They will not go with you. They could care less about your knowledge. They're going to care whether they think you can be a friend to them. They literally, like, if you're their best friend, they're like, this is the person. They could suck it up on a whole bunch of other ways, but man, we're good friends. We're good to go, right? So, but you know it's true, Melinda.
here.
What?
I hate it here.
You know it's true. So think about that. And these people, you'll know when they're in an open house because they're coming in there, and it's a scene. Like it's not they're just walking in there. It's a show, right? They're entering the house, right? And they're doing actions and sounds and body language that says they're entering something exciting and new. And this is going to be a new, exciting experience, and I want to see it, right? So, make sense? And if you don't have that enthusiasm and curiosity that they do, you're going to suck it up. So, as persons, they're about 30, 35. I think I'm about 40 for this. They like teamwork, harmony, predictability, status quo, cooperation. They dislike insensitivity, misunderstanding, being yelled at, surprises, being pushed. So if you come in and say, okay, these are the S's are the classic, what we call passive aggressive. They're the ones who set an appointment with you and then ghost you.
Wow.
Right? Because if you're pushy with them, they'll set an appointment with you because they don't want to seem insensitive to you, right? But then they'll just be like, this person's too pushy, and they'll just ghost you on that. When you're not face to face and I'm not being sensitive, right? Exactly. So if you're gonna go through a lot is you're meeting a lot of these people and you're pushing hard for the appointment before you made them feel safe and secure, and they're ghosting you on the backside. Makes sense? All right. talk to them kindly, patiently, particularly with understanding. So how would I talk to an S? Talk to an S. What would I say on the real estate side? What would I say? So if they're an S, I'm gonna say like, wow, yeah, this process, yeah, it can be, because they're gonna think it's like change for them is big. Change is scary for them. Buying a house and selling and buying a house. Yeah, it can be pretty stressful. Don't worry, I've done many of these deals. Or even if you have done many of these, it's like, we've done many of these deals. They're called a pitching and sale. Don't worry, we'll manage the timelines to make sure you're safe and secure. And there's contingencies in place. So if your home doesn't sell before we buy the next one, we can cancel on that buyer. Just stay in your safe home. You'll never be homeless. Don't worry about it. So you're saying things that can do it. And then I say, and they're like, well, we want to think about it. Those people, if you push them for appointments, say, no, you shouldn't think about it. So the first thing they say is, yeah. So when I'm talking about that, I say, yeah, don't worry. In my business, we don't push people. People make decisions on their own timeline. That's what I say. No, that's not really true. I gotta push them. But what I want to do, but for them, I'm going to say, you're on your own timeline. You make the decision. I'm your consultant. Right? Those kind of words, I just changed how I said things. Those things are going to, when you get to an S, they're going to be, this person understands me, right? This process is scary, and they're giving me comfort and feeling and allowing me to take the timeline I want. And they're going to make sure that everything's taken care of so I don't feel stressed about this. Right? Make sense? They're going to be people that are on your ABC list. They're going to be the Bs because they're able and ready. They're just not willing, right? And it's because you haven't provided security enough for them to make that change. There's too much fear in that change process, right? Yes.
I just wanted to point out, ask a question. A man, MLK, if for personality S, their greatest fear is change, why did we pick MLK for this?
But I think he pushed because he was big about harmony, right? He's big about
I see a lot of other.
very S's are going to be very much about harmony, right? If they're an open house or something and you see them and you're talking with a client, you're being aggressive with them, they're gonna be like, whoa, go around this person, right? And you're like, I'm just talking to a D, that's it, right? But if they see you come with a D and you're going back and forth, yeah, you're like, whoa, they're gonna go, because that seems very tense. And I don't kind of like that. I'm gonna get over here and be safe with harmony, right? So, they're very much like harmony. They're like teamwork. They want to do things together. That's the thing. If you're going to be an agent with them, you got to show up like a team member to them. Like we're on a team and we're together. And that's what I really tell them. I talk to them. That's like, don't worry, we'll be a team. We'll be hand in hand together through this process. That's what they want. They want that teamwork. They want harmony. Right? I'm going to be hand in hand with you through this process. You got to talk like that, right? What? A heartfelt. Yeah, heartfelt. They don't want vague. They don't want to be yelled at. They don't want surprises. They don't want to be pushed. They want to grab someone's hand and go. Right. All right. Oh, look, they're turning to the competition. The largest group. So, if you're not good at talking, for me, these are hard to talk to. Okay, listen. Right. But they're the largest part of the population, literally. And I would say in Sacramento, they're a bigger portion because of the state. That means the Sacramento S's tend to be attracted to living in Sacramento because of state employment. Right? So we probably in Sacramento have a greater proportion of S's than normal because of our employment mix. Right? So think about this. If you're not good at this, you're giving away like 50% of the leads right there. Like there's no chance you're converting those appointments. If you're giving them away, if you know how to talk. So if there's one personality, if you need to work on one, say I need to get better at that, that's probably the easiest, best one you should work on because that's going to be the majority, probably 53% of people walking your door is going to be here.
And it's hard when you are one as well. It is very, I have one right now, a client, and she's crazy.
No, and these people tend to be like a lot of these clients tend to say they're crazy, and the reason is because of their fear of change and things like that, they get very emotional and fear tied to that. So when you say move forward, they're like, why would you do that? That's like jumping off the cliff, right, to them, right? And they feel a lot of fear around them. You say, man, they're crazy. They just can't make a logical decision, right? It's fear, but for them, it's just the idea of change itself. Just the idea that I'm going to be not in this house anymore, and in this house scares them, literally that fact, right? Even though they like the house, just the idea of making that process happen is scary. Because they're thinking like, a lot of things can happen that can go wrong.
Quick closing.
What if I'm packing and I throw out my bag? Because I threw out my bag 2 years ago and that sucks, right? I mean, they're gonna think about those things, right? So, but if you want to talk to them, there's a lot of these in Sacramento, a lot of S's. So you need to work on a person. If you're not jiving with that person, you need to work on S's, right? And you have to have patience. Patience is key. It's great. C types, 20-25%. I think they're less than this. They want to be right. Clear instructions, planning, established procedures, know what to expect, and limit tests. It's funny that Vince, our C type here, the other day we were having some, when we onboard agents, when we take agents and we had some consternation because we're onboarding some agents and the process got a little muddled and confusing. And then the next meeting we have all together, Vince is like, does anyone have any things they want to talk about? And Vince like, I would just like clarity on the systems we have for onboarding and my role in those systems, okay? And literally, he said that because oh man, I gotta have established procedures, buddy. Like, you can't just throw this at me and expect me just to willy-nilly it. That's not happening, right? Right? So their fears, being criticized, mistakes, sudden change, sloppy work, unpreparedness, sugar dash. C's are hard. If you want to convert a C and close them, you gotta be detailed. Detailed. They won't skip steps. Like, if you're a D, if A is like, I'm thinking of buying a home, till Z is buying a home, they're gonna go like A, F, T, Z. That's it, right? Pretty much. If you're a C, they're gonna go A, B, C, D. And you're like, dude, you don't need to know about pest inspections and pest clearances prior to buying a home. You don't need to know that, right? We'll deal with it when we get there. No, they gotta know. They gotta know. Right? They gotta know. They got it. If you want to talk, you gotta be accommodating, accurate, accountable, and you got to know your stats. Got to know. I remember I had this buyer when I was talking to the wife. She was an S. She did alterations. Helping people get dressed. She was an S. I'm talking to her. She's like, they lived in Stockton, but they fly out a lot because she does a lot of shows and stuff like that. And so they wanted this place in Sacramento to be closer to the airport so they wouldn't have to like drive home every night. Because they fly out like every weekend, right? They want to be able to, so they have enough money. They come in for the buyer consult. I've only talked to the wife. They come in for a buyer consult. And literally I see husband sits down and he's an engineer. And he sits down and he says like, John, why should I even buy in Sacramento? Is that a good investment? Am I going to make some money on this condo? They want to buy now. Is this even worth it for me? Or am I even a bad investment? I'm like, whoa, Mr. C, right? So I said, time out, we're going to switch this up. I took him from, I took him in here and I said, you know what, we're going to talk about Sacramento. And what I do, I logged into Metrolist, I pulled up trends and said, we're going to go through trends. And I'm going to put it back 5 years. This is why Sacramento is a good place to buy. Let's look at the numbers and trends. And I went through all, there's 5 tabs. I went through all 5 tabs.
He was in heaven.
Oh yeah, he was like this. So this, yeah, you're right. And what I want, he wants to be right. So he says, when I'm reading this says this. And I said, you're right. Right? I said, you're right, because he wants that confirmation he's right? And I went through all 5 and we talked and said, so you ready to buy? And they're like, yeah, we're ready to buy. But I had to come in here and put a big screen up and like go through trends with them, right? Which took like 45 minutes because he's detailed. So, but I had to convert him because I knew the personality immediately. I said, whoa, that's like God already. I've been talking to her. She's good. Husband is going to ixnay veto this unless I can convince him Sacramento is a good place to buy. Right, period. All right. So C's, you got to be calm, accurate, accountable, analytical. If you are not these things, this will try you to the nth degree. I will struggle with this all day long. You want details? But we're such good friends. Why do you want details? You should just trust me.
that, as you said, I'm like an I person.
Yeah,
And when I'm meeting with an agent, either experienced, again, I'm not selling houses like you guys, but when somebody looks at me very point blank, why should I work with your company versus another company? I get wrapped around the axle.
exactly, you're like, because I'm awesome. I'm awesome, right?
But I have to come up with the.
That is, I have an ABC list and your awesomeness is not on that list. Exactly. So on fees, it's important, when you do a listing presentation, they're already gonna vet out the list price. They're gonna vet out the list price, and they're gonna have backup data to demonstrate the list price. That's why it's important when you do when you're setting that listing plan, when you ask questions, one of the questions you ask is like, what do you think your house is worth? No. And sometimes they don't want to say it, but I get them to say it, and they'll say this, and I say, okay, then how did you come to that value? And I make them tell me, because if they say, well, I looked on Zillow, I looked at Sacramento market trends over the last 5 years. I talked to my buddy who owns a house down the street. I talked to another buddy who sold down there. And with all that, I came to this, and I'm like, okay, see, what house was your buddy at? I'm asking them, what house did you look at? What house was that house? And I find those, and sometimes like 3 years ago they sold, but I put them on the comps because if I don't talk about that data and discredit that data, they're not gonna get on board. Not gonna get on board. Right? I gotta get them on. Yeah, if they're like way off value, which they would be, I'm gonna have to get them off their data. I say, and I don't say you're bad. I said your data's bad. All right. I said you're not wrong. You're only wrong because your data's wrong. Here, let's look at this and why we should look at this data instead. Right? Make sense?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
With C's, start losing their trust, how do you get them back? How do you get them back on track? That's hard.
The only, yeah. If you see you losing trust,
You know, like they'll come at you.
you just have to show up like you just have to go back into that show up like just start. There's nothing you're gonna say that you're not gonna relationship your way into fixing that. You're not gonna do it, right? They're gonna ixnay that, right? If you're trying to influence it like, oh, so they're gonna view that as you're trying to make up your faults with just having a better relationship with me. Like, no.
So what do you do when they have?
You show up more seed. You go, what you do is go more seed than they do. Go more seed than they do.
And just keep bringing back more data.
Because remember, they have data, but you probably have a little more data than they do. You know, what trends and stuff, they don't have it. So just give them more and more and more data. Like, I know you thought it was A, B, C, D, E, F, but there's another step between D and E. They're like, oh, this person's looking out for me. That was a red flag. Ooh, that could have been sideways, right? So that's what they're going to look at. And the only way to do is go back to being C, and all you can do is show them I'm more C than you, which is tedious. But you're going to see these. So who tends to have these jobs? What jobs are these people in?
Accountants.
Accountants, engineers, architects, nurses, people where their job has to work, where the accuracy on the job means lives, right? Like you have to be right. But doctors, they tend to be C's because they're not going to skip steps. They're going to make sure everything's right every single time, right? You need those people in those positions because they affect great things, right? So, all right. Good?
Thank you for lunch.
No.
My pleasure.
All the time you did for lunch.
So you're gonna see these job profiles. So a lot of the time, if you're having a conversation with them, especially if it's a listing part or something, you want to ask them what they do for a living. Or buyers, right? You may want to ask them if they qualify, make sure they're qualified to buy, but you really want to know is what their job is, because a lot of times their job will tell you what personality they are. And then you can automatically switch how you talk to them based on the personality. Sense? So jobs are a great way to indicate how to do it, how to identify someone's personality. In your business, how do you do your business? So on the phone, these guys tend to speak louder and faster. Have you seen John on the phone? He's very loud. And Taylor knows because he said, so.
You're great, don't worry.
But they're gonna be loud, and fast. So on the phone, you're not gonna have the advantage of seeing them face to face and interact with them. You gotta go off their tone and other things. So to identify, you're gonna have to be, these eyes tend to speak a lot faster, louder. SSTs tend to be softer and slow. Very soft. Sometimes you're like turning up the volume on your phone to like hear. Straight up X, straight up X. Like making this call to talk to you about selling and buying a home is like scary. It's like, I'm doing this out of pain, right? They're literally like, I don't want to talk to you, but I have to, right? So, I's and S's tend to show more emotion. So these are conversations, that was a good conversation. We really built rapport, right? Well, it's just because you're talking to someone who's an I or an S, right? They like the rapport, they want that. And if you're an I and you're talking to a C, you're gonna be like, that went horrible. It could have gone great. You just view it as horrible because they're judging the world differently, right? So D's and C's tend to show no emotion.
They have it, they just don't show it.
They don't show it. No, that is like giving away cards. I'm showing you my cards. I'm showing you too much of my cards. Oh, my cards out. So I really, right? So they're not going to show emotion because they don't want to give you into their heart. Protect their heart very, very, very tight.
Don't D's, two D's together, when they butt heads, there's like two D's. Because
No.
Nope.
No, you tend to see D's hang out. They're like, but they're like, where do you get the D's at? You know, the elite men's smoking clubs is going to be D's. Like we're captains of industry. Like, you know, like I get special privilege. All these people are peons. They don't understand. These work together well. They like it. They do well because they go as fast. They go faster. They understand. He thinks like me, right? These also, one of the biggest problem with these is they tend to burn bridges. Mm-hmm. If someone is slower than someone's an S, they're like, you're out. You were good for that project, but now I'm done with you. You're like, I thought we had a good work relationship. No, you're done. You're burn bridges. And the ghost, you're just gone. You're out of their life. They don't care. Right? So D's tend to burn a lot of bridges, right?
John, can you go back to the screen before where it shows which type of people there you go.
This is why teachers tend to be good agents because they're generally their eyes. Generally their eyes. They're the only people that can really do. Sometimes they're S's, but a lot of times they're eyes. They like talking to kids. They like the group. When they get older and they're like, they gotta make some money. It's true. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
If someone is in sales, generally they're a D or an I. Generally, mostly D, but sometimes I. Means if they have a sales job now, they run a business or entrepreneurial, they generally D or I. On an appointment, going on a listing appointment, the way the home is going to identify personalities. Okay. These homes tend to be clean, decorated, traditional, neat, clean, and in order. They tend to be kind of stark. You might call them like a bachelor pads, right? They're functional and nice and good and clean, but it's not like we're not trying to impress anybody. It's going to be very utilitarian, right? It's very functional, but not grandiose. Makes sense? Although if they make a lot of money, they'll want to be grandiose. I homes tend to be well decorated with trendy styles. They have photos throughout. If I'm walking a house and I see photos of every kid for the last 5 years as they've grown, all the extended family on thing, I see a bunch of photos. I don't even ask about the house. When I'm doing that walk, I say, yeah, let's walk the house. And I usually walk the house thinking about this one. Because I don't even I want to get to know their personality so I know if I can change anything in my presentation to address them. And I start walking the house, and if I'm with the wife and she's an I, I'm not even talking about the house. I'm talking about the memories in the house. Are these your kids? What's their names? Who are these people? Right? Did they, I'm sure you have lots of parties, they all people, oh, they come over every summer, right? We have so much thing. The biggest thing that's gonna hold them back from selling is their memories in the house itself, right? They don't wanna give those memories up. They're gonna be most concerned about who moves into the home, right? I want a buyer that appreciates this home and the love that it's had, right? They're gonna talk about the love in the home and the experiences in the home are gonna be very important to them, right? So, all right. S homes gonna be comfortable, traditional. S lots of family photos too. So the difference you can tell is they'll be comfortable. I is going to be very trendy. They're going to have the latest styles. They're going to have the nice furniture. They're going to spend the money. S's are just going to be comfortable. It'll be good and clean and nice and homey, but it doesn't necessarily be high end. It's just going to be comfortable, right? Very safe and comfortable. C's homes tend to be very neat, tidy, well organized. Usually not a lot of color. Sorry.
We're not seeing messy homes up there.
I know, you're mine.
What?
Who are the messy?
And the messy ones,
Here's the hoarder.
only the hoarders tend to be S's. The hoarders tend to be S's. Hoarders tend to be S's. Why do hoarders tend to be S's? Change. Yeah, they're uncomfortable with change. So even if their situation warrants a change, fear might make them stick there, and then it becomes the house is too small. I need to move. I need a bigger house. But fear of change gets them stuck there, and they just end up overcrowding the house, right? Also, because of their fear, a lot of people some attribute, especially if their background is poor, they attribute wealth with things. And so they tend to accumulate those things to offset their fear, right? That gives them security and that people think I'm wealthy, and they tend to take that to an nth degree, get 40 like, right? So most cluttered homes are going to be S-like, right? How to ask for business. These will make fast decisions. These like to negotiate and need to feel like they've won. They just need to feel like they win. And you gotta let them. You gotta let them. I can also be pushed in decision makers. They have an overwhelming need to be liked and recognized. Focus on how it will help them. You need to praise them. You need to show them love. I compliment their shoes. I compliment their hair. You gotta compliment. You gotta like show up to them, right? Like you dress. That is a great outfit, right? You just got to compliment them. Why? Because they're gonna focus on that they need to be liked. Then they need to be that you recognize and you like them, right? They want that.
How do you tell an I seller when they ask for feedback on their home from showings? If somebody,
That's a hard discussion.
yeah, so how would you approach them? Like, give us an example of that.
If I need to get a price reduction or
No, it's like, you're doing the show and you get feedback that they didn't like the home or something that they didn't like about it. That
Depends on what they didn't like.
yeah, if I'm trying to get, I'd only have a discussion with that if I was trying to get a price reduction done.
Okay.
But if I'm just how did the show me go? I wouldn't even, because they're gonna feel like you're taking their side. You're not understanding my home and my home value.
Right.
They're the value of this. Do you understand, right? So, and I would say there's not the right family for home. That's what I would tell them, right? Because that's like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't want her to do the right thing. Someone that appreciates it.
There's not a red buyer.
It's not the right buyer. It's not the right family, not the right buyer, right? It's all about. So, all right, and I go, oh, same.
Right here. Got you.
Oh. Hey, good job, Tim.
Thank you.
She's got. Oh, wait, can you click on it? Because I roll to the right. There you go. Click. There. Okay. I'm gonna move this.
She's a
forward.
saint.
She's. We talked about this. I'm gonna go forward here. Exercise. Pair up for 2 minutes
Oh,
and talk about what you like to do about your family, things you do for fun. 5.7%. But what I want you to do is try to identify things they're saying and doing. And if you're the one talking, I want you to talk about something that you enjoy, that you love, that makes you excited, that makes you, it can be any topic, but I want you to talk about it. And I want you guys to see some of the patterns that come up and the way they say things. All right? And pair up with someone you don't know. So that way you can actually nod at everybody.
That's hilarious. I like the haircut. What do I like? Like, what is that?
I like to but I manage it.
Well, and I'll do this, this is why, this is, perfect better. A lot of people, the D is the most, a lot of people, the other personalities, like I said, it just. They just show up like that, but really what they learn is insurance. So you can have an S, you can be an S and come around like, I'm pretty successful in this business, I'm gonna be a bird. So a lot of people says, I'm a G, but actually I'm a DS.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Yeah. So you probably seen it from the beginning, but when you first and say this. But the question is, how often do you let you think? How other people observe you, right? So like, what do you do? What do you do? Okay, what do you see?
Yeah, first one is down. Yeah.
Well, that's right.
But, you know, I want to.
And how do you get experience? Okay, so you work before. What businesses? So you're talking about sales?
Yeah.
Okay, switch people, switch people. That's 2 minutes. Switch around.
Wow.
Why did it happen? Purpose?
Yeah.
And, you left on record and you can do something that you look so bad. Oh, I you got a lot of freedom. Like you do. And back in the past, you were in public speaking. What do you enjoy in sales so much that you think you can ask? What do you enjoy?
They were excited about it.
Okay. Okay. I suspect you're probably more Irish. You probably know and you just learn corporate American. But I suspect your base is not because that high so. I stripped everything away and all the corporate training and all that sort of stuff, and you guys pull on the job and strip it all away. What do you really enjoy about it? I enjoy making sure they have a place. Don't want to be what I'm carrying. I'm an S, so I just tend to, so I have to do things differently. So I do it differently, and I just, top 30. So I can, at a very high level, I just do it differently. Like, because I'm more, I tend to go through my. I won't get a lot of it. Because I go through, I set up systems of all of them. One thing that I'm very steady. I like efficiency, I like steadiness, and I like being here. And that's what a lot of Marty wakes up now, you have a great day, a bad day, that's what all about, like that. And what I do is I can become a sounding board. Bringing our emotions down, but you know what? Good part. Good part. And that's what we want.
Yeah.
Right? I suspect that's a lot of what you've done your eyes to make the relationship go on, but I you learn the urgency around this, right? Have action, you learn in action. Yeah, that's exactly. And don't worry, I love people. I love people. I got personally today. Now I find a lot of success in getting it. It's about this. It is about that. I made this happen. It's about I did it. I call I like if Linda does a presentation, she had a fire company getting down. I do this training, I can do it well. But it takes my energy. It takes energy. To show up with this energy level, I'm having to take energy with this, I can give it to you. So if Melinda's teaching this, she would be getting it, you guys need to positive, right? So that's the difference in I am. Yeah, and so these where I interact with it. I would used to teach, I would never interact. And then I had to learn techniques to integrate with class more to have more effect. I will. Okay, everyone. All right, let's everyone sit back down. Let's get it going. So, what do you think your partner's letter is?
Taylor's are free.
No, that is not on there.
That is not on the letter.
That's not on.
That is not on the letter.
Melinda is, I know no one knows this, is an I.
And what Vince?
I think.
And Melinda, Vince, what is Taylor?
Go ahead.
She's a D for sure.
She's a D in her normal life, but when she gets into work, she turns into an S.
I disagree.
I suspect she's really an S with urgency of D, right? So and I was talking before that, like sometimes D's, you think you're a D, but a lot of times your base personality is just your base personality, and you just learn urgency because of business, right? You learn like, I need to be responsive to my leads, I need to go fast, I need to go fast, I need to go fast, I need to go fast. Especially corporate America. Corporate America thinks everyone, you just need to go fast, right? You can actually go fast. So if you have those habits, you tend to look like a D, but your base personality tends to be something else. And so I said, that's why I said that this isn't perfect. You need that you need to understand what you really, so that's what I was asking is like, what do you, she's like, I'm an I, I manage people like an I, but I show up like a D because I've done those jobs. And I told her, no, you're probably, I go, what do you like? What do you do at the I do sales consulting and teaching now. When you were selling before, she's like, yeah, I was selling before. What do you like? She's like, I like when they had a good experience and they bought my product and they enjoyed my product. And sometimes they said I was a good salesperson. That pissed me off. A D wouldn't care if they said you're a good salesperson, why would I sell it? That's all they care, right? I would say, don't call me a salesperson, that's rude, I'm not that. We had a good relationship, right? So she's really high, but she just learned from corporate America to be a D, go fast, right? So sometimes you're another base personality, and that's what I was telling her. I'm really an S. I like harmony, I like teamwork, I don't mind, I like all boats to rise. So part of my leadership is like, I want all boats to rise. I'd rather have us be all together in the family. But I've learned to be fast because of my business with D. So I look like a D, but I'm actually running from a base of an S, right? All right, we gotta go faster. Mirror matching, this should be your next document on there. Anything on Hoskin that? Anything on Hoskin talk with you? You should have seen like, you should have seen patterns of what they're saying, how they're talking. Did you understand? See that? Like people are literally will talk about things and they'll tell you what kind of personality they are. They literally will tell you by how they say things, how they act. Mirror matching. So this is physically, we're talking about body language and tone now. Yes.
I just want to make a comment on the.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we were chatting, we were also finding as we're getting older, because we are older now, that we are growing other parts of our personalities that we might not naturally gravitate towards.
Correct. Yeah. So a lot of times when we talk about DISC, we talk about your natural and your adaptive. So natural is what you're naturally, like what you're born with and your genetics, and then adaptive. A lot of times you learn things, skills, experiences, bad experiences, whatever you've had in the past that makes you adaptive. That means if I put you in a job setting and I said perform, you're going to divert to a different type of personality that you all have. And if you want to know the DISC, you have parts of everything. You have parts of everything. You do. It's just what's the most influential, right? And sometimes, a lot of times you'll have a primary and a secondary. And a lot of times you feel the secondary is like, I may be an I, but I just got to get the job done. And if I have to be an asshole to do it, I'm going to get the job done. And I switch, I lower my I and I go to D because I'm in the situation that requires it, right? And so we call that adaptive style, that you'll adapt to it. But over time, the thing about that is if you're in a job that fits your adaptive style, but then takes you away from your natural style, over time, you're going to go grind, that job's going to grind you. It's going to feel like this is not the job for me, right? I'm not going to fit this job well, and it's going to start feeling tedious and not worth it. So, right, over time, and you really got to match your job to your natural style. And that's why I talk about real estate is know who you are, because know who you are is going to be a big, it's going to be key to how you set up your business, right? You need to set up the business how you are, otherwise it's going to feel like grinding. That means you need a lead gen based off your personality. And then if you lead gen off your personality, it's going to feel a lot better. So I'm going to go kind of fast because I didn't know I thought I had 2 hours. I'll speed it. Physiology. So match the posture and physical mannerisms. Now this is the one you practice, but how many of you been in my office? You've been in my office, right? So you have my red chairs in there. And those red chairs, because they let you lounge back, but you can sit up. So some people sit up. And some people sit in my chair, and I have my chair I can lock it where it just, and I lock it, or it can open it back. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, that's weird, you know? And I say, I like it because if they lean back, I want to be able to lean back too. So if I'm having a recruiting meeting and they're talking to me and they're leaning forward, I get up and lean forward on the desk. You want to physiologically match it. You don't have to go farther than them, but you need to move forward. So I had an open house and I heard this guy, God, I hated that client, but this guy came up, we're at an open house. I remember him, he looked like came from the beach, like surfer dude, right? From the long hair. And we're talking, and he gets in my face. You ever know those people like they violate your personal space? Like, you know, when he's talking, you're worried about spitting on you, right? You know, like that close, right? So he's up in my space, but that's his physiology, right? And I was fighting it. I wanted to back away, but if I back away, I'm telling him no, right? I'm telling him no, and I don't want to tell him no. So what I do, I actually took a little step forward. I just like, oh, he's not. And it was like, oh, it was so painful because like, this is the wrong way, right? But I took a little step forward. Why? Because physiologically, that's it. I had needed to show him that I wasn't uncomfortable with his reality.
Did he go back a little bit or no?
No, he actually started leaving me more. And we were close, but that was comfortable for him. And I got, yeah, and closed it, right? But that's what you need to understand is you need to match what they're doing. If someone sits in my office and they cross their legs, I have to sit back and cross my feet. Makes sense?
Now I'm gonna be.
Sometimes you have husband and wife and they're doing different things. So when I'm talking to the husband and he's on the table, I get on too. If the wife's laid back, then when I talk to her,
What do you do if you have a couple? Do you figure
I figure out whoever I'm talking to at that time, I mirror match them.
Okay.
I mirror match the person I'm talking to. And if you get really good, you'll understand two different personalities, and then you'll understand how I talk to this one different than this.
What do you do when they start arguing? Because that happens.
I can tell you what, part of the reason I get a lot of listings and buyers, I can tell you this is, sometimes the spouse's communication level is not sufficient to handle a dramatic event like selling and buying a home. It's always going to be messy, emotionally. And if what I do is, if I'm talking to this person and he's a D, I talk fast and things. If she's an F, I know my D talk is going to be like garbage to them, right? So when I ask her, hey, is there anything you want to be concerned about? Because I know his concerns are going to be different than your concerns. And I know you're going to have concerns too. So what are your concerns? And then I do a lot softer tone. And I usually get the clients, and then what happens afterwards, they say, I've had wives come in like, hey, John, I really like this house. I know my husband's going to poo-poo it, but I really like it. Can you convince him about the house? Because I can't do it. Literally, our relationship's so broken, I can't navigate that communication, right? And I've worked with people like that, and I won those things because they trust me. I can be the arbiter in that situation. I can be the mediator in that situation because they're like, you know how to, and you know how to talk to them, or he'll say, you know how to talk to her. Right, you know how to get through to them, right? Because, and that's all they think is, they're just personality fighting, and all I know is personality, so I know how to talk to each of them, and so they look like I'm some guru. I'm not really a guru. I just studied and internalized a lot of this, right? So, make sense?
And then they'll say, yo, she listened to you.
Yeah, listen to you.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, and sometimes I do a little coaching, like, after we're getting close, and I'm like, hey, you want me to tell you how to talk to your husband better? And he thinks like this. So if you want something, you need to do it like this, right? That's the bonus. Yeah, my wife, I go faster. My wife is pure S, like almost like A, B, C, D. And I'll tell you, early in my career, I was flipping homes. I know a lot of you know I was flipping homes. I was going very fast. And for my wife, during that time, she was sucking it up because she didn't want to disarm me. But she was like, this is scaring me because so much can go wrong, right? And all this. And so now over time, now when I do investments, I learned this, I don't want to harsh her. All I do is, if I want to move, which is moving is a big freaking deal, right? If I really want to move, I plan it like a year or two ahead of time. I just say, hey, I'm thinking about moving. I think we should move because for this X, Y, and Z. I just want you to think about that. I just leave it alone. And I planned it because I need her to internalize and process that and get around the fear, right? And then, so just you'll understand how to navigate those complex emotional relationships and navigate this. Okay. So physically, so if they drink water, cross their legs, if they talk with their hands, you're going to have to start talking with your hands. All right. This is the fun one, actually. Now, here's the thing. Here's the trick. You can't do it more than they do. If you do it more than they do, it looks like mockery. Okay. You got to do it, but do it less than they do. Right? So if he got up in my face, I don't lean in a whole bunch, I just lean in a little, right? Because you can do it, but not to the extreme that they do it. Okay? But I hate to say it, those little things in the back of their mind, it says, this person's like me, and it sounds so silly. But this is how trust happens. Trust is built, right? Rapport is built. Remember, we looked at the chart. Body language, right? Okay. Speech rate. Speak the same speed and tempo as them. Don't speak fast in fifth gear and when they are back in first gear. Right? You have your normal speech rate, and my speech rate tends to be fast. So my biggest thing always I'm trying to do is slow down my speech. So you're going to have one way or another. You tend to be fast or you tend to be slow. And you need to increase or you're gonna know where your base is. So if you're slow, you're probably gonna have to be most of the time increasing your speed. And if you're fast, most of the time you're gonna have to lower your speed. So when I talk to an S, I get softer. I slow down. It's okay. We work hand in hand with our clients. We will be with you every step of the way so that you are never misinformed and you always know something. Right? I slow, you know what I'm saying? You gotta slow your speech rate down to match theirs. This is one of the big. If you get this, especially on the phone, key to conversion. Match the speech rate. That'll help you on the phone dramatically convert better. Match the speaker. Got it? If you're at different paces noticeable, you're gonna have miscommunication. It's gonna feel funky. Okay. Volume. Speak as loud or softly as them. You gotta match their volume. This is it. If you get on the phone, you just we're on our phone, speech rate and volume are gonna be key. If you can match their volume and get to their speech rate, you're gonna have a much better conversation and more likely to get appointments. So if they're loud, sorry, you're gonna have to up the game, right? You're gonna put more discipline into that, right? And if you're quiet or shy, bring it down, bring it soft. It'll help them feel comfortable. All right. Tonality and pitch. So there's a difference between volume and tone. We all understand that? Make your voice sound like their voice. And this is a little controversial. I've even had people who are like talking to Chinese people with the accent, and I've had agents start subtly using some of those accents. Not in a heavy way, but they kind of talk that way, which just makes them feel better. Because now I'm half Chinese, so I know how they talk in kind of broken English. And I can sort of, because my mom does that to me to this day. And my wife had to learn it. She's like, I'm learning your mom talk. It's really just broken Chinese, but that's good. And I can talk to them like that. I literally can talk in broken Chinese, and if I'm talking to a person that's broken Chinese, they feel like we're together. But you need to match tone. If they're aggressive, you need to be more assertive. If they're reserved, you need to have a reserved tone, right? You can't mismatch that, right? If you're going for a price reduction, you can't go in with a war if they're an S, right? You got to match it. Match their tone and pitch. Pretty cool. Keywords, phrase back talking. This is an easier one to do, but this is a great way to communicate if you understand their needs. Example, a prospective home buyer might constantly mention the feel or different homes with statements like it feels good, it feels like a great family home, or it feels cold and dark. Kind of expressing feelings of the home. It's important to come back and so I hear what you're saying, that this home is a little too dark and cold for you. We need more light in this house. We need a house with more light. Is that correct? So you want to, if they say terms as they're talking to you, when you do a retort back, you need to bring back these same terms, the same words they say. I don't know if that makes sense. People have mannerisms on things they will say. For example, I like to say, does that make sense? That's a phrase I enjoy. So if I hear someone saying that a lot, then I will, when I say something that I want them to learn, I'm going to say at the end, does that make sense? Because I want them to, that makes them feel like we're on the same wave. We call it keyword playback, right? Playback for them. And you're not looking for every word, you're looking for unique phrases, particular words that keep harping on, right? You're going to see them when they talk. Any questions on these?
It makes sense.
Okay, if you see all these together, we can't do that, but if you see all these together, I want you to understand this is how a lot of agents convert better. Is they're doing all these things together when talking to someone, and then you see why they convert at a much higher level and more often, right? So they're working the same amount of hours, they're just converting more leads because they're using these techniques to do it. And it takes a while to internalize those techniques. So if you're wondering why you're not converting leads, a lot of these is you're missing connections on personality, or a lot of these mirror technique things, and it's coming to them like it's disjointed or miscommunication, right? So What are you gonna work on? I recommend you take one or two of these and work on them. If you're gonna work on personalities, I recommend you just work on identifying people first. Identify, like, if you can consider this, like, this person, that person, this person, that person, and then the next step would be like, okay, I'm gonna change the way I talk to those people after I identify them. First step is you need to identify what people are, start understanding those, and then changing the way you talk to them is gonna come second, okay? If you're gonna work on these mirror matching, I recommend you pick one or two and work on that only. Don't work on all of them at the same time, work on one only. One or two only, like speech and tone, the speech rate or volume, something like that, right? So that way you can get good at that. And when you got good at that, then start checking off the other ones, right? But I guarantee if you can master those 5 mirror matching techniques, you can master personalities, you will convert at a much higher level.
John, if you're at an open house, so one thing is you could like asking about their operation, like what you do, level how kind of the and what size they are. What are other couple of things you can recommend? Like when you're at an open house,
When I do an open house, I set up a table at the front and I have people sign in, right? And I'm pretty diligent. I'm very methodical with that. I do that partially because I want to get their information, but 2, how they respond to signing in is going to tell me about their personalities. If they're going to and walk in and try to walk past me, they're automatic. I know it just because I just showed up to sign in. If I say sign in and they want to shake my hand and says, I'm Susie and hey, I'm John, I know they're not because it's an event. And of course they're going to sign in because this is an event. We're going to have an experience together, right? They're going to want it, right? Okay, 2, if they're an F, they may question you. They'll comply if you press hard, but they'll give you false information. So they're going to question you, like, why would you need that information? And so I go to security with them. That's it. I say, hey, the seller wants to maintain security of the house. They ask me everyone to sign in. So that's going to be a valid reason because they feel security, right? So they're going to challenge you because they don't want their information taken and stolen because that's a big disharmony and all those things. So I know how that, if they come in and they just see it, they walk up, they're like, and you can tell their penmanship is good and clean and they're not scribbling and it's good. They're seen. They don't question it. That's A. If we do an open house, you sign in. That's what you do. That's A, right? And they just do it, right? And they don't question it. They do it. And usually they'll give accurate information because they don't want to be inaccurate. So based on how people walk into an open house, you're often going to see that. But just see how they talk with you and interact with you. Have the same questions like, I'm say, hey, I just ask certain questions like, hey, what brings you out today to our open house? And if they say different things, it matters to me how it happens. Right? If I say, well, my family and I, we have kids and we're looking for a better backyard because we want to make sure we have get a pool and have a lot of fun so we can hang together. They're not. They want to host things. They want to make sure they have experiences at the house, right? If they're an S, they're going to be like, whoa, we're just looking. Don't categorize me as the buyer, okay? I'm just kicking the tires because you're telling me change. If you come in, no, change, bye. Then you're like, what? Right, so they're often going to show up as kicking the tires. I'm just thinking about things, even though they've gone to 70 open houses, still thinking about change, right? So thinking about those things. These are just going to show up. They're going to barnstorm the house. And they're going to be quick in and out. If they walk on the down floor and they don't like the kitchen, they turn around and leave. You'll know it. You got to get them fast. Like it's a split moment. So just how their actions are, what they say. So I often do, hey, I'm John. That's sort of the great guys. But I often introduce myself and put out my hand to shake because I want to see how they react. And how they react is going to determine what personality they are. I change the way I talk. Think about it. If I said someone to shake their hand, all 4 personalities are going to operate differently. Right? He's going to be like, okay, right? Just, yeah, shake and go, right? I's going to be like, well, nice to meet you. I'm Susie. Thank you very much, right? That's good to meet you. C's going to be like, okay, very cool you doing. Do I sign in here? How do I get a flyer, right? Those are things, right? And then S's are gonna be worried about you, but they're gonna be they're gonna be friendly. They want harmony, right? So they're gonna reach your hand, but I can tell they may be shocked by it, but then they do it, then I know they're probably an S because they want harmony. They want to make sure I feel good, right? So they're gonna do it anyways, even if they don't want to do it, they're gonna do it anyways because I put my hand on the ass and set that expectation up. So just, that's the thing, it's subtle, that's what I'm telling you, it's subtle, right? But if you get good at it, then you start identifying it, then I change the way I talk. And so I can tell you, that's why I call it a dance. You understand, I'm doing these things, and in the split second they're signing in, I'm changing how I'm gonna address them. And you can see how challenging that process is. Does it make sense? And so that's why I say it's an advanced technique. Practice one another, practice one another. It's gonna take you some time to internalize and get this. And you understand, if you're worried about what you're gonna say and respond to people because you don't know the scripts and what to say in these situations, you're gonna fail at this automatically. Because if you're worried about what to say, your brain doesn't have enough capacity to observe them, their actions or words, stuff at a level where you can start changing stuff because it's worried about what you're gonna say, right? So you have to master, you gotta be comfortable with any objection that a buyer is gonna throw at you at an open house so that you're comfortable responding with that before you can even start working on these things, right? Does that make sense? All right. But this is the people that say, wow, they're awesome and they're great, right? But I can tell you, I sucked at this, and I had to learn it because I'm a lazy, successful person. I want to be as lazy as possible and get the most amount of money, right? Right, and if I just need to be, I was like, I don't want to, and I do that in recruiting. The average recruiter in Colorado recruits 25% of the appointments they need, like 1 in 4. I recruit 75% of people with it, and I do less appointments. They're like, you need to do 40 to get 10, and I was like, I'll do 12 to get 10 because I'm lazy, right? So I'd rather just do it better, right? That makes sense. So it takes a while. You have internals, but I practice this. I would practice one. I would get on this phone. Okay, I'm going to make calls today, and I'm going to work on my volume and my speech rate. And I would focus and talk and try to internalize my voice, like what the hell they're talking. I work on it. And then what happens over time? You just naturally, your brain will just naturally do it automatically, and then it just keeps. That's when people are like, man, that person's trustworthy. I like this person. He matches who I am. Everything feels good. You know that feeling when you meet someone like this is a great person. I can tell we just jive. It's good. Imagine you can do that with everybody. Everybody. What would your business look like?
Very successful.
Right. So think about that, internalize some of those things, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. If you want any more advice, I'm happy to help, but I'll be putting out more trainings like this on off Wednesdays or key meetings so that we can get you guys. Very good.